this this is a little clip I'm putting up. I'm screen capturing this from Richie from Boston. Somebody I listen to. He has quite sober analysis, and understanding, an overall understanding, I think, of how things work. And I'm somewhat perplexed generally how very intelligent people analyzing situations in terms of what has been talked about so much. Richie from Boston talks about this too, the Hegelian dialectic. Apparently, it is to create an opposition where there is no opposition in order to have some kind of an overall control of both sides. So if you initiate the problem, if, let's say, for example, you initiate like Prescott Bush, who was funding both sides of the Second World War, he was part of that cabal, that group of people, those owners, as I call them, that are never really understood. They're in the background. They're not Rothschild. Rothschild are, and the banks and all these, the usual suspects are always in the front row carrying out the orders, and also making, to some extent, the whole thing to appear like it's an opposition, like people hate each other and they don't like whites and blacks and pinks and yellows and greens and all the hatreds that can be conjured in order to facilitate a certain outcome. And I'm just going to play this. I'm going to turn the sound off. Okay, so it's playing here. And what Richie has captured is a supposed news story where dead bodies are lying, and then, oh, lo and behold, one of the dead bodies is actually alive. And being filmed. And this is a news story out of Ukraine. And now Ukraine has become the shit show. The COVID shit show is ended. It has served its purpose. And the next shit show is going to be a little bit worse. My thoughts were that the COVID shit show isn't over. It's just temporarily put on hold because something else is more convenient. Yeah, I mean, you look at this and the Hegelian dialectic in full swing, how the public is being gaslit, how the public is being lied to. Yes, of course, fake news, fake all that. It's like, oh. So a lot of the analysts are looking at this as something we need to do in terms of, I don't know, who has he got here? Let me just put this on pause. Anyway, yeah, I think this is the interesting part. Whoops. So yeah, what I was thinking today is that why are alternative people still analyzing this as though it's real? Yes, of course, there are opponents and adversaries set up, and people are being used through the hate mechanisms to enact whatever it is the owners want to have happen. So we're kind of marionettes on strings based this whole thing about how what is so clear, like with the COVID shit show, what has been so evident was how eager they are to get everybody to comply with what they call their mandates, whether or not it contravenes all rules and regulations and the even just etiquette. It's like in terms of ethical behavior, never mind laws that are being broken. But this has been such an intense effort for 2 years, 24/7 coverage of how you have to comply in order for this thing to go away. And now all of a sudden, this has been through. I still feel that the trucker convoy in Canada was instrumental in creating a sense of power within people that have decided this is a shit show and we're not going along with it. So this was clear. It was coming to an end based on the Canadian experience, where there were millions of people obviously in opposition to what was happening. So it had to be ended, and it will be shifted now. And what used to be COVID is now Ukraine. And Ukraine good guys, Russian bad guys, virus bad guy, governments and mandates good guys. So we have this dialectic continued. And I'm just sort of wondering, anyone seriously saying that, oh, Russians are bad, and any kind of clear-minded alternative understanding, they're all the same people. People. They're all the same people. There are not opposing factions. The opposing factions are fabrications. It's something that is emotionally bred into what I think is inherently flawed in culture, that it also breeds in this disdain and hatred for anyone that is not part of your clan. This is why I've always, in many of my videos, I've said, you know, I am not a big fan of civilization. As Gandhi said, it would be a good idea. I'm not a fan of culture, the way it is manifesting itself, because it just furthers and propagates this, this ability for the owners to use the dialectic, to use warring factions for an outcome. Now, what is the outcome? My friend of mine who's really on the fence on the whole COVID shit show, but is understanding now that there is something untoward. This is not to be believed anymore, the way they're dealing with this. You can scream in hockey arenas, sit beside each other, but you still have to wear masks and hide from each other somewhere else. Of course, it makes no sense. It's irrational, but that's part of the idea. The irrationality creates mental dysfunction in people, and people are quite mentally dysfunctional at this point, probably beyond repair. Anyway, those who have gone along with it and think this is all on the up and up. But he asked me, what is the reason? Why would anybody do what they're doing? Why are they doing what you see here on the screen, pretending that these are dead bodies to evoke emotions in us to hate one person over another person? Like a Russian person is hateful, and the Ukrainians are heroes, and we have to side with them. Well, this is so clearly the intent to create hatred, animosity, fear, COVID shit show fear, war shit show hatred towards somebody, which is going to facilitate. What is this now? Okay, what is this? Let me see. I think I'll go to my face. You've seen this enough. This was funny, wasn't it? Don't you think this was funny? This was just hilarious. Anyway, let me. It is. You have to admit this is really funny. I mean, it's so obvious. It's like the Reichstag idea thing, right? Richie from Boston gets it. Don't you think that was funny? I mean, the pretense, the pretenders, the great pretenders, those events that get people all riled up that are actually fabricated. Some actually, some of the theater that is created is real suffering in terms of the people that are exploited. Their suffering is exploited. I'm not diminishing or minimizing that, but when it comes to the owners, it's clear now, anyone that is still capable of understanding the world that we perceive. I mean, you look out into the world and you come to a conclusion based on your perceptions. And if the perception, yes, there's always interpretation, but if you look at this video there and you see some dead guy under a blanket waking up, you say, well, why is that dead guy waking up? And is that the only time they're going to do that? It's for this reason. So the intent was something my friend asked me about. And obviously, there is a micro and a macro analysis in the intent, I would imagine, because it's a very complex system that we're living in. Now, outside of the fact that I have always said we are part of a mystery, and in the sense, the mystery is not ruled by some despotic oligarch owner type. The mystery has nothing, how can I explain this? Okay, so the idea of the mystery is like someone who is terribly abused in the real world, in jail, tortured, all that, but they maintain a level of themselves as a spiritual being. Obviously, the physical being is everything on a certain level. I mean, when we're suffering, everything is the physical world, but superseding that, we have experiences, even when we're not in a desperate state, that we have this sense of otherness. We have this feeling of being part of something that is not of the physical. And this is, we're being distracted from all the time. Even religious make sure that we're distracted. They call on bearded fellows in the sky that are bad with money, that need money all the time, that you can buy your salvation in so many different ways, from the obscene kind of references they make to the God entity, to the omnipotent being, for the simple-minded who need to have like this image of like Michelangelo's bearded guy with the pointed finger and all that. You know, those are for simple-minded people, and using intelligent, brilliant artists to do that, I kind of have a lot of problems with that. I mean, I have problems with the Sistine Chapel in the sense that civilization could be a good idea if it was used for good. It's the glorification of man himself, how brilliant a person can lie on their back for 4 or 5 years and put something on a ceiling. That is extraordinary. But the message is suspect to me. Anyway, the intent. So we're in a situation, we're shifting from one shit show into another, where all the official stories are now focusing, transferring all their hatred onto an entity on Earth called Russia, and we have to comply with loving the entity called Ukraine. So COVID shit show is ending, although I think that's temporary. To see how extensive the success will be in ruining the rest of the physical world that has already been fundamentally ruined in terms of business, in terms of people's day-to-day enjoyment of living. No matter what anybody says, when you cut out so many people from your lives, if you're not used to it, it's going to destroy a person, their sociability. It's going to be an incredibly destructive force to separate people with the mask thing, which is what the idea is, not to see people's faces anymore. That whole program has now succeeded, I think, enough to shift into something a little more violent, something a little more physically violent, which is the nature of societies. They structure themselves around what is called the rule of law, but the rule of law is basically a big hammer. So you create big hammers with police forces and all that, and then you make pretense, oh yes, we are with the blue, we defend the blue. Well, fundamentally, they're protecting the owner's wealth. Police forces, and I'm not talking about individuals in police forces that are decent people. I am saying on the whole, they protect wealth. And the wealthier you are, the more you'll be protected by that invention, by that social invention, a police force. Why can't people with the decency in people, oh, they're so rotten? No, I don't think so. People can defend themselves and be help to each other. We don't need these organized people in blue. They look like they're dressed up to invade another country when they confront you, when they stop you with their car and ask for your license, and they come with the big thing and they're fat and they got the guns and the equipment, and you're like, holy shit, you know, these guys mean business. So anyway, the intent, yeah. I'm kind of struggling with the microcosm of the intent. I know the big picture intent is to destroy the spirit world that we still are attached to. Like the idea, the mystery is outside of their world. I mean, it isn't. They're part of the mystery as a lesson. As Quantum of Conscience fellow says, it's a lesson to be learned. Whatever it is we're going through, the bad guys are as important as the good guys. I guess you can take that position in terms of understanding only that neutral aspect within the mystery. But I don't see the mystery as neutral. I think the mystery is much more committed. It's not like the Buddhists like to pretend they're detached. It's not possible. As long as we have a body and that kind of body, mind, soul, spirit thing going on, there is no such thing as a detachment possible. My thoughts anyway on eternity and the mystery. The mystery is not detached. The mystery is all loving, because you just look you look outside and the structures that support everything that is around, everything supports everything else. That is not a coincidence of neutrality. That is like phenomenal. And the owners have stepped in and they're trying to drive a wedge in this. The same, I go back to Akhenaten, who was the first of the owners that decided it's not enough to be venerated as a human being. I want to be a god on earth. So he basically said, I'm God on earth. I'm the direct liaison to the omnipotent being, and all bend down in front of me because I hold the key to heaven for all of you. And that's when things went really terrible in terms of any religious concepts. Once that happens, when you have direct representatives, sort of a third party coming in and saying, I'm the liaison between you and your spirit, that's when we run into difficulties. And they have implemented that on all different levels. That intermediary, they're always meddling in they're always in our business. They're always having to yank our chain. And usually the chain is being yanked with pain on the other end. It's like unpleasant all the time. Why do we let these people yank our chain? Well, the intent is basically to yank our chain. This is the intent. Now, what is the result of that? Well, there are probably many different outcomes, but fundamentally, we're detached from the mystery. This is if we allow it. This is the intent. This is what I would say. Well, why do you think they're doing a COVID shit show, and why would they do that? Well, because number one, they can. We have allowed this ownership to take charge, like you have institutions and structures that are supposedly governing us. It's all a bunch of hooey. The way I was watching Cromwell yesterday with Richard Harris. Man, did he have to shout during that movie. Alec Guinness was the king whose head had to come off. And the illusion was never, as an idealist, Cromwell wanted, I think the film suggested Cromwell was a decent guy who wanted people to have say over their own lives through Parliament. But obviously it only went so far because people, this is the weakness in humanity. Humanity is weak in the sense of establishing their birthright. What I say, that act within the realm of that inner world, first of all, rather than the outer world. But this is something discouraged, which is why we never really are able to come to terms with the circumstances we need to confront. We cannot confront the world out there as long as our inner world is unresolved. And this is how the owners depend on us not having that inner life. So the intent primarily is to just be in our business as much as possible because it separates us from ourselves. That is the intent. Now, from the point of view of, are these people actually in some way capable of relating to the mystery as well? Is an owner capable of understanding the significance of a Beethoven piano sonata, or of the Bach suites, the cello suites? Are they capable? Are they just sitting there absorbing something and not knowing why and how and what? Or are they actually able to make the connection between themselves and the mystery? That the music facilitates the music that is really the top level stuff when you're experiencing it, actually penetrates us to the point where we actually are able, knowingly, unknowingly, become part of something. Are the owners capable of this being part of something? Or are they just like separate entities functioning in a kind of bubble, which is what they are? They're functioning in a bubble. That's my conclusion. They're incapable of making that connection. This is why they're owners. They're incapable of having any kind of sympathy or empathy because they're in their bubble. They have no connection to the mystery. So when a person sees someone suffering, and you're touched by it, you're moved by it, and you want to do something and you want to help, it's because that person is actually still attached to the mystery. The owners don't have that. Hence, the continuous cycle of unsympathetic behaviors, like is the ultimate unsympathetic behavior. Okay, the intent. The intent. The intent is number one, just because they can. The other is to separate us from that inner life. And I know this is, for a lot of people, this isn't very satisfying. You listen to your sexy channels, YouTube channels that have flair and entertainment value. And, I'm not high on the entertainment value, except for the paintings. I mean, I have a level of entertainment value if you look at the paintings that usually are in the background. I've just cleared my walls for a new set of paintings I'm thinking of doing, and they'll be entertaining. So my thoughts and words are directly related to now this shit show, the shift in shit show, shifting the shit show. Maybe I'll call it the shift in shit show to Ukraine. The crown is on Ukraine, the Ukrainian corona. So yeah, that's the intent. That's what I believe the intent to be, to separate us from our spiritual sides. And just because you're religious doesn't mean you're spiritual. And just because you follow the rules of a book doesn't mean you're spiritual. The spiritual part in us is our ability to internalize something and feel connected. That is probably, for me anyway, that is the goal. That is my in terms of making my work and the little bit of relationships that I have to build this connection. And you don't have to do it with people only. It happens with animals or nature, the world, a beautiful, like you're standing in awe in front of, a magnificent tree or whatever it is that is awe-inspiring, is that connection that we need to cultivate and generate in us in order to fight the bastards who are trying to prevent us from doing that. That's the intent. And their long-term outlook, there is no plan with these people other than that. They feel if they accomplish that, they have total run of the roost. They can do whatever the hell they want. They don't have to have a plan of wellness and we are successful in all this. As long as we're suppressed within the means of their ability to do that, this is the intent. That's all it is. There is no real benefit to them because ultimately they're going to be in like a really lonely place when they die. But they don't give a shit because they say all there is this world and that's it. But yeah, you can't teach this. You can't teach someone to feel anything. People come to this by themselves. And I've noticed that in my life and people that I know, you can say or do whatever. You're probably going to screw it up more the more you talk and try to make people feel something. People come to it themselves. And I don't think you can belong to any kind of club or a program that will help do that. People will come to feeling what they feel and understand on their own terms, not because anybody says so, not because anybody forces them to or seduces them or well, sometimes seduction actually has worked for me. I must say, I've been seduced into feeling or seduced into trying things. Yeah, so you might be seduced. My thoughts on this whole Ukrainian shit show, we're now going to be asked to hate one entity over another. Like we hate this virus and you have to be all in unison cheering against some corona virus. The shit show coronavirus is shifting to cheering for the other corona now.